Hello, I'm Joe Spampinato. My wife Patty and I have been members of Central Baptist Church since 1968. I'm going to tell you about an incident in the life of the church, one which I consider a defining moment, which occurred in 1965, well before we became members. At that time, I didn't know very much about Central Baptist, except that I had heard about this communistic church in the center of Wayne. In 1965, the country was deeply enmeshed in the Vietnam War. President Lyndon Johnson had recently escalated the conflict with the addition of several hundred thousand more American troops. Although voices of concern were beginning to be heard, the tenor of the country was still strongly anti-communist and strongly in support of the war. It was in this environment that the Women's International League of Peace and Freedom, a worldwide peace organization, requested permission to hold a two-meeting forum in Bryn Mawr. The first meeting would be a debate with pros and cons presented. The second would present opinions of noted experts on Southeast Asia. They requested use of the Bryn Mawr Community Center, which was adjacent to the Bryn Mawr War Memorial. Well, when the local veterans organizations got wind of this, they made an immediate outcry, calling such a meeting, quote, disloyalty and a desecration of the war memorial, unquote. Our local newspaper picked up their complaints and firmly echoed and reinforced them. Well, the Lower Merion Board of Commissioners, in the face of all this controversy, refused the use of the community center. But somehow the League found its way to Central Baptist Church and requested use of our fellowship hall for the forum. Our deacons, yep, we had deacons at the time, accepted their request, and two meetings were scheduled for Sunday evening, September 19th and November 7th, 1965. The public reaction to the scheduling of the first meeting was both loud and ugly. Violence, including a bomb threat, was promised if the forum was allowed to continue. The Radnor police was so concerned that on the night of the meeting, they had 30 men stationed at the Wayne Firehouse in the event of trouble. Even the Pennsylvania State Police had a number of plainclothesmen scattered throughout the audience. Well, happily, it turned out there was no violence. About 250 people attended the debate, and the reaction was mostly civil, with equally divided between those for and against the war. When it became clear that the second meeting was going to go on as scheduled in November, well, the controversy escalated considerably, and increasing pressure was put on CBC to cancel it. The local paper ran a full-column editorial calling for its cancellation, including a thinly veiled threat that if it weren't canceled, there was going to be violence. This pressure, which included some from CBC members, convinced the deacons to bring their issue before the congregation. And in good CBC fashion, the League's request was rehashed at a congregational meeting on Sunday, October 31st. After a lengthy discussion and a vote, it was decided to uphold the original commitment by the deacons and host the second forum on the following Sunday evening. That night, the hall was packed with 350 people, including a number of people outside at every window, all of which were open. This time, the audience was anything but civil. People opposed to the meeting were out in force and continually disrupted the speakers with cries of fascist, liar, and traitor, and the singing of patriotic songs like Battle Hymn of the Republic. Those at the window contributed their share with jeering and flashing of signs that said, beat the communists, and words like drop it and stop it superimposed on a nuclear mushroom cloud. Thankfully, the raucousness was limited to incivility, noise, and disruption. There was no violence, despite the constant threat and expectation. In a letter to the editor on the following Thursday, the CBC deacons defended their decision and the forum, citing Baptist principles and their support for two fundamental issues. One, freedom and duty of the citizens to speak out and speak their opinions. Two, necessity for Christians to be involved in community affairs. This affair firmly cemented the reputation of CBC as a champion of unpopular causes in the psyches of Wayne, the CBC congregation, and the church at large. A review of current headlines makes clear that while some of the specific conflicts, issues, and epithets may change, there will always be a need for people and communities of conscience to stand up and speak out for what is right. Central Baptist Church is such a community. That is why many of us choose to worship here and give the church our support.